Hi, I'm Jacob Minkoff. I'm design director at Infinity Ward, and we're at E3.
So talk about what the storyline, what's going on in this universe when it comes to Infinite Warfare.
So in the world of Infinite Warfare, humanity has expanded out into space. With here on Earth today, we know that we're running out of different types of resources. We're running out of fuel here in California. We have trouble with water. We'll be out of things like rare earth metals within the next 50 years. Really important things for semiconductors. And in space, many of these resources exist in enormous amounts. People have said that the first trillionaire is going to be whoever mines an asteroid first. So if you have that sort of wealth floating around up there, there's going to be conflict over it. People are going to be militarizing space, protecting their trade routes, protecting their resources. And the world of Infinite Warfare is one where all the countries of Earth have their outposts, their settlements out there, sending resources back to Earth. And in that world, anytime you have conflict over resources, extremism arises, splinter groups arise, and the Settlement Defense Front is a group that has arisen out there among the outposts of the solar system that feels that it is their birthright to control all of the resources of the solar system. They're a greedy, militaristic group that wants to just control everything and have a stranglehold on all the resources that Earth needs to survive. If anyone gets in their way, they're going to eradicate them.
Can you talk a little about, because in Call of Duty the bad guys have always been a focal point, Kit Harington and the character he plays?
Yeah, absolutely. So we were really excited to be working with Kit. Kit was really super into the idea of being a villain. He hasn't been he hasn't had the opportunity to do that before. So this has been a new role for him and something we've been really excited to be a part of. Kit is playing one of the members of the Settlement Defense Front. We can't speak just yet about exactly what he's doing, but what I will say is we are really looking for a classic war experience in this game. And if you look back to early Call of Duties, we went for a feeling where you have an enemy force that you're up against. It's an overwhelming, huge enemy group, and you are part of a large fighting force, and it's one against the other. It's not about taking out one guy and winning. It's about how individuals represent a face of the enemy, but you've got a large foe that you're fighting, an unstoppable force.
So now on the good side, can you talk about the characters you're playing and also your colleagues that we saw?
Yeah, absolutely. So on the Allied side, you play as Lieutenant Reyes. He is commander of SCAR Team 1, which is a special operations force that has been trained to fight in space. But what's really unique about Infinite Warfare, particularly for Call of Duty, is that, usually in Call of Duty you play as the new guy, you play as a grunt, but in this game you're playing as a leader for the very first time. And that really opens the possibility of stories that we can tell, because Reyes, as leader, commander of a ship with thousands of crew, is pushed into a whole new sort of emotional space where he feels the burden of leadership, the weight of the responsibility, not only to the thousands of crew under his command, but to all the people at home on Earth who are relying on him and the group of his warship to protect them. And in this story, Reyes is field promoted into the position of captain when the captain of the ship to which he is assigned is killed. And so you play as Lieutenant Reyes on his first day on the job during the opening shots of an interplanetary war. It's like the worst possible day to get promoted. And so the thing about telling a great story is putting pressure on the characters from the outside that reveals who they are, what sort of choices they'll make under duress. And so we couldn't think of a better way of revealing who Reyes and his crewmates are than putting them in a situation like we have in Infinite Warfare.
And just from a brief perspective, can you talk a little about his crewmates that we see him battling with?
Yeah, absolutely. So the story of Infinite Warfare is it's an ensemble cast story. You know, the stories of classic war are generally stories about different people from different cultures all working together to fight a foe that threatens them all. And of course, this is a story about all the people of Earth working together to fight a foe that is from the rest of the solar system. So we have many different characters that support Reyes, like Lieutenant Salter, who is his longtime wingman. They've been fighting beside each other for 10 years among the Scars, and today, for the very first time, he's now her captain. And this is a change in their relationship, and so you get to see how these peers now go to a commander and subordinate relationship, and how that stresses their bonds. There are other members of the crew. There's Sergeant Omar, who is the leader of the Marine contingent aboard the UNSA Retribution, which is the carrier that you're on, and he kind of butts heads with Reyes because Reyes, being Navy, has been, as highest ranking naval officer, promoted above him, but Omar has more years of experience leading large groups, so he kind of questions whether Reyes can handle protecting the lives of Omar and his men. So you have all these different interesting dynamics, and of course you have the air boss who handles the flight deck, and the warrant officer who, you know, when you go to the armory, he gives you your weapons and your loadouts. So as you go through the Retribution, which is your hub ship, you're surrounded by all of these different characters who are supporting your journey.
Last thing, can you talk about the advances in performance capture as you guys have been making these games, and how that opens up the acting and the kind of characters that you're able to bring to life in this game?
Yeah, absolutely. So in Infinite Warfare, we are using an enormous amount of performance capture. In fact, Activision built us a new performance capture stage just a couple blocks from the studio. So we have our own stage where we can do capture of both voice and facial performance at the same time as full body. And it's really, really exciting because it means that we have the leeway to use our main actors to capture a huge amount of character performance. It really, and we do everything in performance capture. We don't do almost any voice recording in a booth with people separated. We do it on the stage with people running around and carrying guns, and you really hear the exertion in their voice, and it allows them to act much more realistically. And I've heard from our animation team that we actually have more performance capture in this game than all previous Infinity Ward Call of Duty games combined.
And Guy Ritchie helped you guys as well. What role has he played in this overall story?
Guy Ritchie was on stage with us last week as we were working with Kit Harington. He really helped us work on that performance and making sure that we got the best possible villain performance that we could.